prison on... okay, sorry. Good evening, my name is Jalecia Ward, and I'm president on behalf of the organization Black Lives Matter. I'm here with Ms. Felicia Claiborne, Attorney Adams, and Mr. Curtis Claiborne. And we are here to discuss the case of Terrence and Ferrone. They were two innocent African-American men who have been in prison for the last 20 years for a crime they did not commit. We are here with the families, and we are going to let them speak. And we will start off by just asking Ms. Claiborne exactly who Forron and Terence were to her, and just telling us a little bit about them before we get into the details of their case. So, Ms. Claiborne, yes, ma'am. Who is Terence and Ferrone to you? Just tell us, tell the world a little bit about them. What would you like them to know?
Forron and Terence. Ferrone is my brother, and Terrence is just like family. We all grew up together in the same neighborhood on Dogwood, and so we all hung out. They were good guys. Well, they are good guys, and we all we had a bond. So,
yes, ma'am. Okay, and then Mr. Claiborne, I'll ask you the same question. Because I know this is actually the father of Ferrone, and I know he was your son, sir. If you could tell the world, just introduce your son to the world, what would you like to say? What would you like them to know about him? What did you love about him? I know he was a great guy.
Everything about him.
Yes, sir.
One thing about it, ever since Warren could talk,
yes,
he would not tell a lie.
Oh, that's good.
I tell him, I say, well, if you lie, we'll whoop your butt. And if you're not lying, I'm still going to whoop your butt. He's going to tell the truth. And that's been him all the time.
That's amazing.
And right when this thing happened, when he first got out of Sussex County Jail, we was on our way back to Richmond. And he looked me in my eyes just like this. He said, Dad, I swear to God, I had nothing to do.
Right.
And I remember that like it was yesterday.
Absolutely, because you know that was growing up with him.
Right.
You knew that that was a character trait of his,
Right.
that he was an honest human being, and that it was just something that he would not do.
What? He might would tell a lie, but he's gonna come up. He's gonna bring the truth out.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like if I tell him, "Hey, it don't sound right," so you let me tell you the truth. He's gonna tell the truth.
Okay.
And the same thing when he kept telling everybody in Waverly, the police and everybody. I know nothing about it. I was not there.
Right. And what about Terrence? Do you guys want to speak on Terrence's character?
Well, I really didn't know Terrence until the case started.
Yes, sir. Okay.
But I knew Terrence's mother and his father.
Okay.
Yeah, but I didn't know Terrence.
Right, individual. Okay.
And I can speak on Terrence. Terrence, I mean,
Sure.
we went to school together.
Oh, good. Okay.
We didn't get in trouble in school. We all grew up together in the same neighborhood for years. He lived on one street, we lived on the other. We would hang out. We went to school together. We catch the bus together. The weekends, we all. When I say hang out, we might be playing pool, playing basketball, playing kickball.
Right.
Terrence was a very good guy, very good guy, very manable. To the females, very manable. So very respectful. So I just don't see Terrence in that role either.
Absolutely. So, two great men.
Yes.
Very, very great characters, stick strong in the community.
Yes.
Right. Yeah, I completely understand. So I'm going to base this question for you, Attorney Adams. What exactly happened to both Terrence and Ferrone? We just would like you to share the story with everyone. What happened to them?
I mean, simply put, they were friends.
Okay.
That's how you know, I can simply state, well, what took place, they were friends.
Okay.
And, you know, to give as short a synopsis as possible on the case, they were accused of killing a Waverly police officer in 1996. And, you know, in 1998. So 1998, I'm sorry, they were accused of killing this police officer. And quite frankly, look, there was no evidence to support it.
Right.
You know, so, you know, when I'm thinking about answering the question that you asked, well, you know, what happened, to be quite frankly with you, we still are trying to figure out what happened, but we know what didn't happen. You know what I'm saying? Yes. So here's how I'll tell you this. They were framed for killing this police officer. For what reason, we do not know, but we know that they didn't do it. Right. They were not with each other at that time during that day. This officer was shot. He was killed sometime around 11 a.m. Right. They within 24 hours, they ended and concluded their investigation, and it led to Terrence and then Ferrone, but the way that it did, it happened because they did what can only be explained, as I stated before, as a roundup of nearly every young black man in the area. And what they did was they put these men in the county jail. And they told each and every one of these men, if you don't tell us something or give us something or take a lie detector test, you're going down for it. So when that happens, you get a bunch of people throwing names out. That's just what happens.
Absolutely.
And so that isn't an investigation at all.
No, it's interrogation.
Exactly. It's an interrogation and it's a false interrogation. So from that point, they're accused. They're scared for their life. And what they ended up doing was they ended up making a life decision to save their life and also save their families from the heartache, which was they entered into a plea deal, an unheard of plea deal for any men accused of killing an officer, especially two black men of accused of killing a white officer. So they took 5 years in prison for Terrence, 1 year time served for Ferrone. They thought it was over. You can see news depictions of
this
Ferrone.
was a state case, right?
This was a state case. It was a state case when it happened. So you can see Ferrone on news segments saying, he just feels blessed and he feels fortunate. Less than a year or so later, they're indicted federally, and they're indicted federally on the basis of it was the officer's death again.
Right.
But the federal charges were trumped up to be drug charges and to say that the death was the result of a drug gang. Now, no offense to Terrence and Ferrone, but these men didn't have a car. They didn't have bank accounts. They could look. There were hallmarks of drug dealers. None of these hallmarks were there. They didn't have gold chains, a bunch of money everywhere, babies, mamas, hell with cars and all of that. And plus, they come from the type of family where everybody's in everybody's business. Somebody was going to know something. So you're not hiding anything like that in this town. All of the officials themselves down in Sussex County, in the state case, no one accused them of being a part of a criminal conspiracy drug gang at all. It was a story that morphed from the strategic and quite frankly criminal actions of federal investigators and a federal prosecutor simply to make a name for themselves and up their career by creating this narrative, this false narrative that seems to historically attach to young black men. And that's if I accuse this young black man of being a Nino Brown type of character, no matter not having the evidence to support it, if I put that in front of a mainly all-white jury, who do you think that jury is going to believe? So once this happened, they're found not guilty on the federal level of the murder itself, right? But they're found guilty of one sole single drug count, which I must again clarify because I don't want people walking away with the narrative that they were drug dealers because they were not. They were not at all. But the jury listened to the evidence and they decided, in my opinion, they said, you know what? Maybe they didn't kill this officer, but they had to do something or the feds wouldn't be trying them. And so they decided to find guilt based on nothing but you got testimony of guys who were known drug dealers and exchanging deals to get out.
Right? And I did read that the jury did feel that if the government had brought us all the way down here, we might as well try them for something. And then what do you think about that?
One other thing, they were charged with conspiracy to distribute drugs. Not with drug distribution, just conspiracy. And the judge laid out during his, instructions to the jury. If two or more people say you're guilty of conspiracy, you're guilty. So you got to find. That's why they found them guilty of the conspiracy. Because the judge told them, if two or more people say it, then they're guilty. So the judge told them, you got to find these guys guilty of conspiracy, in which they did. So they brought that out. And then another thing, and you can check the Hopewell newspaper, Pittsburgh, with the Progress Index, when they picked them up, they charged them with, they said they were, what you call the homeless people, and indigent. That's what they called them, indigent. Because they thought nobody cared for these two guys. So they were going to lock them up, throw away the key, and nothing would be said. Because at the time, Ferrone had been staying with me in Richmond come stay with his sister in Hope, where he was staying here and there. But he wasn't homeless.
Right.
He always had somewhere to go.
Right.
Same thing with Terrence. His mother lived in Williamsburg.
Right.
His father lived in Jared or Yale.
Yeah.
So he had some place to go. But just because he was supposed to be staying with Sean Wooden, they said he had nowhere to go, nowhere to stay, nobody cared about them.
Right, and this is the systemic racism,
Yeah.
the justice system that we're trying to expose, and that they have no value.
Can you touch on that information desert you spoke on a little bit earlier?
So we're talking about Waverly, right? And for people who are tuning in now who don't know about Waverly, Waverly is about 100 years behind right now. You know what I mean? And there's not enough information down there. They get their information from news articles and from local news. And if you go back and look at the time, you don't see anything at all talking about there was a witness who pointed out somebody else, or there was other evidence that suggests that these guys were in different places. They had solid alibis. You don't see any of that. And so what happens is when you start to create that narrative of people and there's no other side to it, right? And they control all of the media. This is 1998. This isn't right now where everyone can, they used to say the revolution wouldn't be televised, right? Now it's televised through their phone, right? And so that's the thing. And let me also say this before I forget. Terrence and Ferrone, in their 20s, were no different than any other young black male down in these areas in their 20s. You live from house to house until you get settled and maturate and stuff like that. It wasn't different at all. And so what they did was, again, they like what Mr. Claiborne said. This is a strategery of the governments of when you have people prosecuting people, right? They're not coming after people who have the connections and resources to fight. They're just simply not. They know it's a drain game. So what they do is they strategically saw them put all of their might in getting rid of the state case. And then the feds came behind. And at that point, they were drained. They had court-appointed attorneys at the federal level.
Right.
And so now you're looking at, after that, now you're looking at another draining system. You got Mr. Claiborne, who literally just got out of the hospital, back at work. And let me tell you something. I know this man is a workaholic. I got an uncle he reminds me of. But I'm sure if he could be retired with his feet up watching his favorite football team and not have to go to work, he would. But when you put a family like this through this, you drain that family's resources.
Right.
You drain them. And that's what happened. It's a strategic game. You're talking about someone, a government, a prosecuting body who has at their disposal the ATF, the FBI, everybody. At best, they got a good attorney who's supposed to do a good job, who hires an investigator. It's not a fair fight. And still in all, they were found not, I cannot stress this enough, no matter how much they did to show that they were found not guilty, and the federal court used a Supreme Court case, United States versus Watts. It allows a federal court to not convict, but sentence a person based on accused and or acquitted conduct. If that ain't a rig in the game, what is?
Right, absolutely. And that actually goes back to my question. I know he was just discussing about what had happened to your son has completely drained you over these years. And so I did want to talk to you about kind of just exposing and talking to the world just on a father's perspective of when they take a black man off the streets and they completely disregard his life and they put him in prison as if he didn't matter. And that's what brings people like us here to say, no, the black life matter is the minimum. And we're sorry that happened to your son. And we do want you to talk to everybody and let everybody know what's it like in your position to have a son that's innocent, that was not guilty by an entire jury, suffer in prison for the last 20 years. What is the hardest part about that? I think that it's important for people to just see that and understand that. Coming from a father's perspective.
It's harder on me than it is him.
Yes, sir.
Because before matter of fact, let me back up a little bit. The night before he went to trial, his attorney called me and told me, Curtis, if you talk to Ron, get him to testify against Terrence. He can be out in 3 years.
Wow.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Now think about it. If you really killed a cop,
Right.
3 years, all I got to do is say, He did.
He would have took that and ran to the bank.
3 years.
And know what he told me? He said, I would rather die in here than to tell allow him because they will kill him. He said, that's something I would not want on my conscience. Now, if you think about that, if you killed a cop and you're going to be out in 3 years, who wouldn't have jumped on it if you really killed a
If
cop?
you really were guilty.
And then he also said, that night he told me, he said, this is the attorney, everybody.
Right.
Mr. Claiborne, I'm right here with the prosecuting attorney, Richardson. If you get your son to say that Terrence did, we guarantee you he'll be out in 3 years.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, look, Ferrone is grown.
Yeah.
See, if Ferrone had been 17 or 18,
Yeah.
I probably would have told him take that.
Right, because that's a selfish
You understand what I'm
part.
saying?
But that's kind of what happened in the Parkland fire situation. And then she said, like, look, son, I know that you don't want to go through this, but I want to see my son behind him.
Right. And coming from a family's perspective, it's absolutely normal to have those type of emotions and want him to try to do him out.
I can't tell him what to do. And matter of fact, and when you talk to him, don't even tell him that you talk to me. Because I know you're going to tell a lie. You're going to tell him I see it. I suggested for him.
And let me tell you
I
this.
wouldn't do it.
We traveled by van, I think 3 or 4 van loads, we rented van, to Claiborne, Florida, a couple of times with family to go see my brother. We had never been to Florida. So we traveled to go see him. My youngest was 3 or 4. And so she's only really seen him behind prison walls. That's very hard because when I take my granddaughter to see him, they have a Monopoly board. And it, you know, the man to get out of jail card. So she keeps giving him this card. She's the little girl that you see here. She sees, she's not dumb. She sees that he is in prison, in jail. And we're trying to explain, but they think bad people go to jail, right? So we keep telling them that Ron is not bad as your uncle. But in her mind, what do they really think of him? They don't know. So we're traveling to West Virginia. I mean, that is a rough trip in the mountains. Those kids had never been to West Virginia. They're vomiting going up there because of the altitude. They got sick.
Oh yeah, West Virginia is a rough drive.
Yeah, so we're traveling to West Virginia and those mountains to Florida, like for years. My dad's getting older, he's driving up there. My mom's getting older, she's driving up there. It was so rough. So he just got to Petersburg, last year? So we are really thankful that he is here in Virginia now. Because those trips on the family, because it's not just 1 or 2 people going. We're taking because everybody loves Forron and Terrence. But speaking of Ferrone, I mean, my uncle is also, he traveled with us to Claiborne, Florida a lot of times. Like, they want to see him. And our family is getting older. So if you think about it, people have passed on that have been waiting to see him. My stepdad, my aunts. You see what I'm saying?
Uncle Roe.
Yes, my aunt. Yes.
Which is my uncle. That's where Ferrone was when all of this happened. He was at Uncle Roe.
There's testimonies where their location of where they were when Officer Gibson was the murderer. And I think it's very important for people to know that.
It took a lot out of Ferrone because he looked at Uncle Roe as his grandfather, which was my father's brother. And they was so after my father passed, he looked at him as his grandfather. So that took a lot out of it. My aunt down in Georgia, when she passed, that took a lot out of it because she was like her grandmother. She was just as close to me as my mother was. So that took a lot out of it. And when I go to see him and he got that look there, what's going on? Who else gonna die?
Right. We have a stepsister who's battling cancer. I mean, she's holding on, and she's like, I want to see my brother. She just had surgery, removed 16 lesions on her brain. She is holding on. All she speaks about is saying, my brother. So it's imperative that they are released ASAP.
It's a prime example of this. The criminal justice system in America, it has placed a noose and continued to keep that noose on African Americans and people of color. And this is how. So you got one body physically incarcerated but you have an entire branch from a family tree in jail just minus the ball.
Absolutely.
You see the toll they take and stuff.
When you take one black life, you
absolutely.
take every life connected to them, and I tell people that all the time.
And so,
you know what I mean?
you know, my thing.
That's why I always say matter is the minimum, because I'm a very firm believer that when you touch that one life, and you have destroyed every single life connected to it. And I really want the world to see that this is what it looks like. This is front row of what it looks like when you disregard a black life.
And if these two boys don't get out, you might as well have killed them in 1998.
Yeah.
Right.
Because
Into allowing
it's a slow
if they stay there and die there,
year after year,
you might as well have killed them then.
It's a slow down. Make no mistakes about it. So I want to say this and repeat this and make sure this is very clear. What was done was not an accident. It was criminal. Everyone involved should be criminally prosecuted. Instead of that happening, people made it and became judges. Everybody in this case somehow, some way went up and didn't go down. You know what I mean? And this is criminal. You're talking about alibis that were consistent from day one and never undermined at all. Right? But yet and still they sit there with life even though they were found not guilty.
Right.
At this point, look, stop waiting to jump on a bandwagon when the case get hot. You know what I mean? Like, where is everybody at right now? You know what I'm saying? Look, the bullshit ain't about nothing when you want to do a hashtag because everybody else hashtagging and you got Sean King, so now you want to jump on Sean King. Jump on this goddamn case. Look at this case right now. Look at the facts.
Absolutely.
If anybody want to know the facts, come and look at them. I got them for them.
Right.
They need help now.
Yeah. And the same thing you said just then, I said that 20 years ago. The people that's supposed to be upholding the law, use the law to break the law.
They do.
That's what they did. That's what they did.
Yeah.
They used the law because they was in power to break the law, which was to incriminate these two guys.
And this has to be said. And it can't, you gotta call, if we're gonna say Black Lives Matter and we call it on our counterparts to treat us right, I got to talk about us, who ain't treating us right.
Right.
Now, make no mistakes about it, right? When this happened, there were nothing but white people at the helm, right?
Right.
Since then, it's been black people at the helm. And you know what they've done? Oh man, I ain't gonna get involved with that. I ain't got nothing to do with that.
Actually,
I don't want to do with that.
And that actually leads to my next question. I did want to be very specific about that individual, or at least an individual now, who has the power to bring this man's son home, to bring her brother home, and safe and sound. So my question was, Attorney Adams, the Commonwealth Attorney of Sussex, Virginia, Vincent Robertson, has the power to reopen this case. We're wondering, has he been cooperating? Has he helped? And if there's anything you could want to say to him or want the public to know about him, what exactly would it be? Because I think we are getting to this point now where there are people in these positions, and we do want you guys to know this, who have the capability now to do something, to right a wrong, to fix something, and to actually take the time now to find out who actually did murder Officer Gibson and bring actual real justice to the Gibson family and level out this same justice for this family that you see right here in front of us. So let's talk about Mr. Vincent Robertson, if you don't mind. Has he helped? What do you? What's your perspective on that?
I mean, here's what I want to do. In all fairness to him,
yes, sir.
This ain't just a him problem.
Okay.
And I'm not going to make it seem like it is, right?
Okay.
This is a systemic problem, is what's going on, right?
Absolutely.
And he is nothing more than a cog in a system that is scared of the system. That's it. That's what he is. So the Commonwealth's attorney right now down in Sussex County, you know, he's communicated with the family that he knows and he believes that these boys had nothing to do with this case because he's checked all of his other people, including his predecessors. We can't talk about Vincent Robinson without talking about Lydia Ramsey, right? Lydia Ramsey was a Commonwealth attorney down in Sussex County for 20 years. I approached Lydia Ramsey when I first got involved with this case 3.5 years ago. Absolutely. And she said, oh, ain't nothing I can do, right? And it's the same thing that he's saying. Well, let me tell you what it is that they can do. What they can do is this. The same thing that you whispering to the family in text messages, you can stand up at a podium and scream as loudly as you can so you can get the Attorney General and you can get all the other people involved. If you think that your job as a Commonwealth attorney is just to lock people up, you need to retire. Because your job is justice. Justice isn't just locking people up. So when we're talking about what a person can do and what can he do, and what he can do is this. It would take me so long of a segment to explain to you all the complexities of the fact that they have a state guilty plea that is holding them in a federal prison, and you can't just file in federal court because this thing is holding them up, and you can't file in state court because they're not in state prison. So what has to be done is this is an unconventional method that has to be done. So it's nothing for me as an attorney to file something, to take a template and file it. It's everything for me to make sure that filing is going to work. So how can he help? He could have already invited me down to listen to what I'm about to say now.
Yes.
This has been done already in the state of Virginia with another innocent man named Hainsworth. You guys can look it up.
Okay.
This was a guy who was wrongfully convicted and in prison, you know, with a life sentence. Okay. The Commonwealth's attorneys reviewed his case. They went as far as to make sure that he was telling the truth, to give him lie detectors, go back and reinvestigate the case. As soon as they were sure, they took that and they talked to the Attorney General and they said, listen, we are in support of this guy's case being righted because there was a wrong that happened. These Commonwealth's attorneys that did this in this Hainsworth case, they were not the Commonwealth's attorneys when the guilty pleas were entered or when the convictions were sustained. But they still, when it came across their desk, they still stepped up to the plate and they took it to the Attorney General and they said, hey, look, something's going on here. Something isn't right. This is the only thing that we've ever asked him to do. He told us, no, why don't you just chill out until after the election? And so imagine me going back to my client who's in a violent prison, who's being besieged right now with COVID, and telling him, hey man, just wait till after the election, man. And the man said he's going to help. Oh, well, how is he going to help? I don't know. He just said he's going to help. That was never a solid plan because there was never any truth to it. So now, what we're doing is this. We're not being silent about this anymore. See, they've been quiet and they've asked nicely for 20 years, and now these guys are still sitting in there. So now what we're about to do is this. We are getting ready to orchestrate a symphony of noise that's going to ring throughout this nation, and that's that.
Yeah, and that was going to us kind of just wrapping it up on you just letting people know at home exactly what they can do to help, and we'll make sure to follow up on with some further instructions on what they can do to help at home. They're going to be watching this and they're going to want to know how can they help Mr. Claiborne, how can they help this family, Terrence's family, get home, get these gentlemen home as soon as possible. What can they do right now, sitting on their sofa tonight? How can they help?
Here's how they can help. This is what we have to do. There's a hashtag not guilty serving life.
Absolutely.
We need the hashtag not guilty serving life and just simply, make it as simple as possible. Do what is right. I'll close this as I've closed with all of the things that I've said before. Thurgood Marshall said it best. Sometimes you just got to do what's right and let the law catch up. We need to do what's right. We need to vocally scream at the top of our lungs. This is not a game. It's not a charade. No one is out here trying to ask for donations and spending on themselves. There's a website. There are shirts. There's a petition. You have to visit the website to know what you can do. If it's $1, if it's a letter you want to write to the Commonwealth, if it's a shirt you want to buy, we need to hashtag and make this go crazy. We can't wait until they gasp their last breath and then do something in their memory. We need to do something right now.
Right. Absolutely.
We need to do something now.
If I could ask, this is something that's in my head. With them being in there 23 years now,
yes.
Would it be welcome for people to write them if they want to? Send them some love, because everybody knows behind that bar and commissary, it's more than just the fight with the attorney. You got to pay to be on the phone. You got to pay for a stamp. You got to pay for a Bible. You got to pay for your deodorant, and you got certain places pay to be there daily, just paying just to be there. So people,
I know that would be great. I was in the army in the early 70s, and it was nothing like in the letter.
As far as funding,
they need some help.
Letters and doing that as well.
We was getting letters from the USO.
Absolutely.
You never knew them. You never met them. But just to get that letter signed.
Absolutely.
So we'll get the information under this. As far as if it's not already up to write them, like I said, we want to do whatever we can to assist. Listen, the justice has to come now. Is it every day that we're out here living free, worried about elections or whatever else? They're behind bars, worried about the next day. So every day is too long. It's like they said, it's like they passed away in '96. They're here, but they can't access them. So every day goes on is strife for this family. So let's take a sense of urgency with this and move forward and assist as much as we can.
I appreciate you all.
Okay, thank you guys so much for your time. We appreciate this. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Claiborne. We'll continue to pray for your family. We'll do everything that we can do to help, okay? Thank you guys so much for having me.
Y'all don't have to help me out.